Hello everyone, this is Defense Politics Asia, and this is the summary for the day of 276 for the 26th of November, and for the Ukraine-Russian war, or the special military operation by Russia on Ukraine that it has dragged way too long. So moving to the southern front, as you can see, there's nothing much happening over the southern front. There's no icons or anything, and over at the Kimbern Spit, nothing is spitting over here. Nothing like what that Ukrainian account, which I do not want to advertise, mentioned. There's no fighting reported here by any credible sources, not even from the Ministry of Defenses from both sides. So no, definitely nothing is happening around here. Moving on to the Zaporizhia line. At the Zaporizhia line, across this main line of the first three towns, there's nothing happening around here except at the Velika Novoselivske region. At the Velika Novoselivske region, there is fighting reported at Vremivka, according to the Russian Defense Ministry, where the Ukrainians try to attack Russian positions. The Russian position most likely is referring to the high ground that is surrounding Vremivka. As you can see, it's actually surrounded with some hills, and so most likely the Ukrainians are trying to attack outwards from Vremivka, uphill against the Russian positions. So most likely there is no success. If there's success, probably the Russians will not talk about it. Moving on to the Donetsk front. So for those that lost, this is Donetsk region. At the Donetsk front and the most southern part, the Ukrainians continue their counteroffensive at Mikhailske. So fighting reported at Mikhailske, and there is also fighting reported at Novoselivske, according to the Russian Defense Ministry. The Russians continue their own assault over at Marinka. Over here, they continue to fight around this region. There is footages coming out with Sukhoi 25 flying around this region using their rocket systems, which I still don't understand how it works, because they aim upwards and somehow can still hit their targets. There is also fighting reported at Krasnohorivka from the Russian side, moving towards this heavily defended fortress town. And around the Pisky region, the Russians continue to attack or fight at Novoselivske, and there is also fighting reported at Pervomaiske. And there is nothing around the Adivka region. There is also nothing around Opine. The one-time report of fighting towards Giverny was still not repeated. And there is no fighting reported over here in the New York region. Over in the eastern front, on the Bakhmut front. At the Bakhmut front, the fighting is now in the Ukrainian tide, where the Ukrainians are launching their counteroffensive over at Klishivka. According to the Russian Defense Ministry, there is also fighting reported at Opine, according to War Gonzo, that they are fighting from the direction of Opine towards the Russian positions. And there's nothing around Bakhmut itself. This is Bakhmut city, and the counteroffensive stretches all the way up north of the eastern front, where there is fighting reported at Soleda, at Yakovlivka, and there is a mixed bag of reports from the region of Bilohorivka within Donetsk region, where there is fighting reported on both sides. The Russians say that the Ukrainians are attacking, according to the Russian Defense Ministry, whereas the Ukrainian Defense Ministry says that the Russians is the one attacking. So very confusing situation over at Bilohorivka of the Donetsk region. The Ukrainian Defense Ministry continued to report Russian offensive over at Sperne and Verkhonokamske. The Luhansk Bilohorivka did not see any fighting over the past 24 hours, so things went quiet. Moving to the Crimea front. So this is Crimea city, and this is Liman city. So in this region, previously we have reports of fighting over Dibrova. This was not reported anymore. Things went quiet here. So is the entire region around Crimea here. The only fighting was further up north towards Ploshchanka. So the Chonky place has witnessed fighting towards them in this direction. According to the Russian Defense Ministry, the plush chonkiness is extremely attractive to the Ukrainians that they want to capture this location. However, they did not succeed. Moving further up north, there is no more fighting around this region all the way until we meet the Kolomi Changha. So Kolomi is a noodle coming from Sarawak, from Malaysia. It actually tastes very, very good, but when you add chai ha inside it, it doesn't taste that good anymore. And so the Ukrainians experienced that as they tried to attack the Russian position. Did not work out. And then this at Stelmakhivka, the Russian offensive to capture this small little town here continues. And this time round we have new updates, where the Ukrainian Defense Ministry reported that the Russians used the heavy flamethrower system, a TOS-1A, which is actually a multiple launch rocket system that launch short-range rockets that explodes into massive high-temperature explosions. And they have very impressive explosion animation. Good. With a good graphic card, you could probably see a very beautiful explosion that kills literally everything that's in the area where it hits. Very scary weapons, because whenever the Russians use this in an offensive, the Russians tend to capture those positions. The last time I seen it being used was in Pisky and at Pervomaiske. So the Russians, every time they use this, they tend to make progress, because it is nearly impossible to defend against such a weapon unless you have good counter artillery systems, which the Ukrainian seems to be lacking nowadays, as a lot of this artillery system is actually being taken out by suicide drones. Further up north, the Ukrainians are still trying to push for Novoselivske. This time round, we no longer see fighting at Kuzimivka. The front line seems to move on to around the Novoselivske region. Similarly, the Russians themselves, the Russian Defense Ministry themselves, actually reported they are now using the flamethrower systems against the Ukrainian forces in this region. So we can see that this entire area here is now have deployments of the flamethrower system, the TOS-1A by the Russians in this region. And this is going to spell trouble for the Ukrainians, because no one really want to just die for nothing. Moving up further north to the Kupiansk region, we didn't see any reports coming from the Kupiansk region. The front line here remains to be very quiet. And along the border between Russia and Kharkiv region, we did not see any more skirmishes. It's mainly still drone reconnaissance, artillery strikes, shelling each other from time to time, which is actually not very important to report on. And so that's the summary for the day of 276 for the 26th of November. So if you haven't pressed the like button, it's time to hit it with your TOS-1 flamethrower, burn it into charcoal, so that the Ukrainians can use, because they are lacking firewood. They have already banned the export of firewood yesterday. So we need to help them. So burn the like button into some firewood, and to help help Ukraine to keep warm. And I'll see you in the next update.